Have you ever been mid-interview? Your brain goes blank and suddenly you're smiling like you actually understood the question, but you absolutely have no idea what they were asking you. What if I told you there are actually a few tricks that make you look and sound more confident even when you're actually stuck? And most candidates actually never use some of these tricks. And later in this video, I'm also sharing the one trick that actually instantly stops you from rambling without sounding rehearsed at all. Top of the morning, everyone. My name is Tshidi and I'm back with another video. Today, we're breaking down 10 tricks that actually work in real interviews, especially when you're nervous or when you're stuck, when you're trying to sound a bit more like a normal human being. And I've used a lot of these tricks. Number one, guys, is the sip of water reset. This is actually a classic. Always take water into any job interview, no matter what. Even if it's a virtual interview, always have a glass of water. If you get stuck, don't panic and start filling the silence with things that do not make sense. You can do the following. You can say something like, "Good question. Let me actually think about the best example for that." And then you open the bottle of water, take a sip, look a bit thoughtful and say, "Well, that's it." And then you continue with your answer. You've bought yourself 3 to 5 seconds, you've actually slowed down your breathing, and you actually look a bit more composed, not clueless. And by the way, it has to be still water, no sparkling water, please. You know exactly what could happen with sparkling water, and trust me, it will take you out of your comfort zone. And once you've actually done the reset, here's the trick that actually makes your answer land properly. Because next is how to stop your answers sounding like you're actually in a TED talk. Number 2 is the 2-sentence answer stutter. If you tend to actually over-explain things, try and use this format. It might actually help you a bit. Sentence number 1 is headline answer. What is the headline? What do you want these people to know? Number 2 is proof or an example. For example, here's a question. Have you ever led any projects or teams in the past? Yes, I've actually led a few teams and a few projects under tight deadlines. In my last roles, our biggest focus was to actually launch an integrated instant payment and budgeting app with about 3 different teams. And we were actually able to deliver within a week earlier than the expected duration. Then you actually pause. Most people actually never pause because the problem is they tend to continue talking and over-explaining and all those things. What you've done there is you've given them exactly what they've asked for, and you've also given them room for them to ask you further questions so you can expand. But what if the interview asks something very awkward, like, what are your weaknesses? And you feel like everything is closing in. There's an honest weakness that you can actually do without actually sabotaging yourself. People mess this up by confessing some really wild things. Like, for example, my weakness is I get angry, or I struggle with time management, or sometimes they take it positive and try and flip it into a weakness. My weakness is sometimes I'm too nice. No, instead, please use this formula. I used to, now I, and here's the results, right? Simple. And here's how you can answer a question about your weakness. I used to take too much all to myself because I wanted to try and do things in a specific way, and I thought it was the perfect way. Now I've actually been learning how to plan a bit better and try and delegate as much as I can. And with that, I've also learned that people do things very differently. And we've also created checkpoints so that at least the team can keep on updating each other on what's happening. You're not pretending that you're actually perfect. You're showing growth and self-awareness and a bit of control. The fact that you know that other people could do things a bit better than how you've done them. The next trick is what makes your answer sound a bit more structured, because sometimes the issue is not necessarily what you're saying, is the fact that it doesn't sound structured because you're nervous. And I've done a video about this one, the STAR methodology trick. Guys, when you get nervous, your answer sounds a bit more messy, like a voice. You know that WhatsApp voice note where your friend is telling you 10 different stories at the same time and half the time you don't know what they're saying? So use a simple STAR methodology that I actually speak about: the situation, task, action, and results. You don't have to actually label it, just think about it in your head. For example, in my last role, we had a drop in customer retention. That's the situation. I had to analyze some support tickets to actually see some of the patterns that we then had. That's a task. Then we worked with the product team to actually fix 3 of these issues that the client had actually complained about. That's the action that you've actually done. And then retention improved by 12% in 8 weeks. That's the results. Boom, it's clean, it's easy to follow. Recruiter's brain thinks, nice, now that's what I'm talking about. This person knows exactly what they're saying. Then we now need to talk about what can you do, when you don't know the answer, because this happens quite often. For a lot of people, they don't know the answer, and there comes that question. The easiest one that we can actually give you guys is the I don't know in the professional version, like the corporate version of I don't know. And the other easiest way of actually saying it is also to say, listen, I don't know about this, but try this corporate speak one. I haven't had to do that directly as yet, but we had some similar issues in my previous company that required us to actually think very differently. And this is what we actually then did. Then you give a very logical approach, your step-by-step guide of what you actually did and how you managed that. Give something relatable. Now, this kind of answer shows a bit of problem solving, a bit of humility, and a bit of confidence, because then you can actually relate to different things and you've actually problem solved whatever they needed you to do. And trust me, interviewers prefer this over you making up a story that sounds like you are lying from, a story from 2007. Next trick that actually makes you memorable, even if your CV doesn't look like, is the one story bank, guys. The one story bank is amazing. Most candidates answer everything with vague statements like, I'm a hard worker. Okay, so is everybody. Everybody who comes into a job interview, the assumption is they're a hard worker. You need at least 3 to 5 different stories that are ready to reuse for every single question that comes your way, especially these questions are coming. Number 1 is a challenge you solved. That question is coming. You know that. Number 2, a conflict you handled. This is also coming. A win you delivered, successes. No interview without this one, because gee man, what's an interview without what have you delivered? What are the wins? And then number 4 is a failure you've learned from. What's an interview without talking about failures? And then the last one is a time you took the initiative. This one normally works really good for junior to mid senior leaders. Then once you pull these stories off from different questions, you are able to then try and give them something that actually works. Because interviews are not about 50 different experiences. They're about explaining your experiences very well that actually works. And then the next trick that can also save you guys is no hot beverages in the job interview. Biggest mistake candidates tend to do is to actually take coffee or tea in these job interviews, guys. Please, whatever you do, if it's an on-site interview, only take water. Coffee can do a lot of damage that will actually mess up your interview. Imagine if you actually burn your tongue just 5 minutes before the interview starts, or you actually tend to spill it all over your shirt. Even if you're at home, avoid drinking coffee, because coffee for a lot of people, it makes them a bit more jittery and a bit more nervous. The next one is, what do you do when your mind goes blank? And you can actually feel the panic rising. So when you actually freeze, your body goes into fight or flight. So you actually have to try and find ways of coping in order to make sure that you deal with this thing. For example, you could actually do the inhaling. You inhale 3, exhale 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I've inhaled and exhaled. And the beauty about that is you can then give yourself a chance to then ask, can you please elaborate a bit more on your question? After they elaborated, you say, let me take a second to think about that. That is not a weakness, it's professionalism. Silence feels a lot longer to you than it actually does to people on the other side. To them, it looks like someone who's actually being thoughtful and not just rambling on. The next trick is what actually helps you answer the tell me about yourself question without sounding so generic like a lot of people tend to do. The present, past, future type of introduction that you actually want to do. This question raises a lot of people's opportunities because they tend to start about their primary school. Try and use this instead. Present. What do you do now that helps you connect to the current job? And then the next thing that you then go into the past. Key experiences that actually got you here. Lessons that actually make you who you are today. And then lastly, the future. What do you want to do next? And why is this role important to you? This actually helps you answer why they should hire you. And here's an example. Right now, I'm a project coordinator focusing on improving delivery timelines. Before that, I worked in operations where I actually learned how to manage quite a lot of difficult stakeholders and improved a lot of processes. Now I'm looking for a role where I can actually own bigger projects, bring these two elements together. And this position for me stood out because it actually brings in both elements of operations as well as, future planning and project management. It's clean, it's direct, and no autobiographies unless they actually ask for an autobiography. And then finally, this is the last trick that I've actually promised you guys that will actually work. The feet and chair trick. This sounds silly, but it actually does work. Before the interview starts, plant both your feet flat on the floor. Sit at the edge of your chair. Number one, it grounds you. Two, it reduces the fidgeting. And three, it steadies your voice. And lastly, it helps keep you alert and your back straight. Just try it as you're watching this video. Sit at the edge of the chair and plant your feet. Confidence isn't always in your head. Sometimes just literally in your posture, how you sit and how you dress. And if you are on a video call, do it anyway. Your body affects your tone, same as your outfit. If you sit at the edge of the chair, back straight, planted feet, you tend to sound a bit more confident. So today we covered 10 different tricks that I know will actually help you definitely in your job interviews. Number one is sip of water reset. It's a classic one. I love it. Number two, 2-sentence stutter. 3, weakness swap formula. Number 4, STAR methodology, guys. And then number 5 is the professional I don't know. Number 6, you have to go back to your successes and your failures, the story bank. Number 7, no hot drinks no matter what. And then number 8, silent count breathing. It helps you just focus yourself. Number 9, present, past, future introduction. Tell me about yourself. And then number 10, feet grounded and edge of the chair type of confidence. It really helps. Now I want you to try any of these tricks, guys. Try one. If you feel confident with it, try the next one and tell me in the comments which one actually have you tried first, or which one are you going to try first. And if you found these tips helpful, please don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Until we meet you again in the next video. Peace.